Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to lesson number 8 in the Fiqh series. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Allahumma faqihna fi deen. Allah, give us understanding of this deen. Ameen. So, we're going on to the next point. Al-Istinjaa, as the author continues in his book. Al-Istinjaa, which is to clean our impurities due to going to the toilet. Number 1, number 2, so urine or feces, those things that exist from the private parts, is to cut that off, to remove that, and that is through means of water and stones. So we'll continue. First one, Istinjaa wajibun min al-bawli wal-gha'it. Istinjaa, to remove these impurities, is wajib, obligatory upon every person, from urine and feces, to remove the core and its effect of those two. Only the prophets is not wajib upon, because they only pure things come out of them, and the earth comes and swallows it up as well. So prophets are an exception to this, but for the rest of us, we need to perform istinja. And carrying on, wal afdalu an yastanji bil ahjar, and the best is to remove these impurities using stones. But when I say stones, it also means modern day tissues is the equivalent. Tissues. Toilet paper. أن يستنجي بالأحجار ثم يتبعها بالماء. So use tissue, then water. The best is the optimum is to use them both, one after the other. Not water first and then the tissue. It's first the tissue, then the water. ويجوز أن يقتصر على الماء أو على ثلاثة أحجار ينقي بهن المحل. So it is possible to use one of the two, and if you do, you should use water rather than stones. Water has this effect that it can remove the core of the impurity and it can remove its effect. Stones only has the removal of the core that it does. So it is better to use water. If you had to choose between the two, you choose water over tissue. But the best is, if you have tissue available as well, you use the toilet paper first and then water. ينقي بهن المحل فإذا أراد الاقتصار, and if you want to use only one of the two, not go to great lengths to do both, على أحدهما فالماء أفضل. So water is better to do than using just stones. ويجتنب. Right. So when we talk about stones as well, you have to use, it said thalatha. So you have to use 3 stones or 3 tissue papers. One suffices in tissue paper, but to use 3, it would be like a sunnah, and wajib. 3 stones would be wajib to use. So if you're just relying on tissue paper, 3 tissue papers, and you're not using water, 3 tissue papers. And when we mean 3 stones, either you can do 3 stones or you can do 1 stone with 3 faces. So the 3 parts of it, you just want to use 1 stone, use each clean side of it, 3 wipes, and then that removes you in the state of that impurity for that. It is removing the impurity. So the only thing with stones is that whatever you use has to fulfill these conditions. Tissue paper, it fulfills all these conditions. Stones have to be jamid, they have to be solid. It can't be like water based. They can't be like a water, like a liquid kind of thing. It has to be a stone. It has to be a solid object. Tahir, it can't be an impure subject. You can't suddenly use something and then you're using it and then you realize it's crumbling. So you're using droppings of an animal. You thought it was a stone, for example. So that's impure. So you don't use that. It has to be tahir. That stone has to be pure. You can't use a stone that's already got some impurity on it. Qali', so it can't be. It has to be that which is a surface that is not going to be smooth and like ceramic or glass or like a bottle. You use that, it spreads the impurity all over the place. Qali', so it has to be that has that rough texture to it, that when you use it on wiping, then it removes the impurity. And ghayr muhtarim, so you can't use things like a ghayr muhtarim it has to not be sacred. So if it's a sacred item like bones of animals, or the bones of animals, that is the food for our brother, our sister kind from the jinns, we can't use that. They eat from the substance on the bones. That is like a really, we talk about subtle things. That's their food. We do not use that. It's not appropriate. It's not respectful. It's sacred. Bones of animals as well. All these kind of things. We can't use a student of knowledge. One uses their book or piece of paper from the book that has writing on it. We can't use that as well. So things that are held in sacredness, that we should not use such things as well. So the stone's condition is solid, pure, that rough texture, and not sacred. And again, 3 stones or 3 sides of 1 stone. So the stones, it removes the core like we said, and water does both. So water is better than the 2. And then we carry on to the adab. And in adab of using of Istinjaa, it continues. وَيَجْتَنِبْ الْإِسْتِقْبَالِ الْقِبْلَةِ, to not face the Qibla, وَإِسْتِدْبَارَهَا, and not to face it with our backs as well, either from the front or the backs, whilst we are performing, relieving ourselves. But this has a condition, it has a restriction of fi sahra, in the desert. So in the desert we do not face, because we are open. If you put a satar, that's a different matter, then it's a different case. You put a satar, and the satar is for us, has to be 2/3 of your arm's length, and that's about 30 centimeters. So if you raise a pile of rocks 30 centimeters, then to face the Qibla would not be an issue at all. Similarly, if you have a car just parked and you're in the open, putting a car there whilst you perform your relieving yourself, or if you're like a Bedouin, you place your animal there, your animal's there, and it's blocking the way towards the Qibla. But otherwise, just like that, open towards the Qibla, it is not from the adab of a Muslim to do that. Again, in the houses, the Qiblas, it's not for that issue. It's not for the homes to face the Qibla or not. It doesn't make a difference. And it's not required that when we build our houses, we build in such a way that it's not facing the Qibla, the toilets. But of course, if we were to make it such that with the intention that we not want to face the Qibla, respect for our deen, for our religion, and then that's great. But that's not what is required from us. So in the homes, it does not matter about facing the Qibla. وَيَجْتَنِبْ الْبَوْلِ وَالْغَائِطِ فِي الْمَاءِ الرَّاكِدِ, so that's Qibla done, to not perform to urinate or to do the number 2 in still water, a pond or a lake. It's not like running water like a river. To not do it in that. Also, it goes وَتَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ, and not in a fruit al-muthmira, not to do it in a fruit-bearing tree to relieve ourselves, or فِي الطَّرِيق, in the pathway, وَالظِّلْ, and in the shadow. So people walk in pathways, so you're doing in that kind of spot is not appropriate. Similarly, a shadow in a place. Hot countries, you can understand that more when the shadow is it comes on a building and there's a shade created. Any shade created in any parts due to a tree or something, to do it in that area, people will go and gather there to escape the intensity of the sun and the heat. So not doing those places. A hole in the ground, وَالثُّقْبِ, thuq is a hole in the ground, animal could live there. To do that is inappropriate for a Muslim to do that. So these are all the other adab, the etiquettes, and to be from the Prophet ﷺ, to be from him, his following him, being one of his followers. We do not. This is the etiquettes. We need to follow the etiquettes of the Prophet ﷺ as he taught us, and not in a hole in the ground. وَلَا يَتَكَلَّمْ عَلَى الْبَوْلِ وَالْغَائِطِ, to not speak when we're relieving ourselves from the adab. وَلَا يَسْتَقْبِلُ الشَّمْسِ وَالْقَمَرِ وَلَا يَسْتَدْبِرُهُمَا, and not to face the sun and the moon. And again, this in the house, there's no sun and the moon, but again, this is like in an open ground, open space in the desert. So this is Istinjaa, and from here, inshallah, we'll carry on to what breaks the wudu next time. Wa sallallahu Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.